Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Gotham City. I'm your host, Levy Rozman. This is a podcast where I talk to people who live in the chess world on the 64 squares and also beyond them. And in this episode, I am speaking with Fiona Steil-Antoni. She is from Luxembourg. She has competed in the Olympiad many times, and currently you might know her the most from broadcasts of chess tournaments, particularly Tara Steel. She recently concluded the coverage of that tournament alongside Daniel Naroditsky and Robert Hess, and we talk about all things in the chess world, from career to competition and everything in between. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining.
Levy, thank you so much for having me on.
We were chatting a little bit before we hit record. You mentioned that you're currently in Amsterdam with bad internet, which I did not know was a thing because a while ago, the editor for now Hikaru, Jaron, posted a video where in the Netherlands he was getting one ping and 1 gigabyte download. So what's going on? How did you find the only place in the Netherlands with?
I do not know. I do not know. I mean, you would think that if you're in Amsterdam, the heart of Europe, internet would be fine. But no, I'm using my phone data.
Wow.
So maybe better luck next time. I'm just here in this place for a temporary period of time anyway. So next time I'll make sure that I have more stable connection.
How is that working out? Like, how do you just get to Amsterdam for a temporary period of time? Because I know you're originally from Luxembourg, which admittedly I know absolutely nothing about. I was going to ask you some things about that in a bit, but yeah, how do you do a temporary stop in a place?
I think that's one of the advantages of Europe. And I was listening to one of your previous episodes where you talked about this. Everything is so close. So I think I have the luxury of, and I think some people would like what I do. For other people, it would be horror to just think about it. But I have the liberty to, if I see a flat online that I like, which is what happened in this case, which is on a Facebook group and an apartment came up for a few months, I have the liberty to just, pack a suitcase and go. But I'm hoping it will stop at some point and I'll settle down. But I'm still sort of looking for where is my perfect home.
But you have but you don't have all your belongings in the suitcase, do you?
No. So my base is still in Luxembourg with my parents, which is sort of where I often go back to. So that's where the stuff is. And then, well, when I come here, we've got a really small desktop now. We were lucky the screens were already here, which is of course important for my work. But for the rest, basically, I just came here with a suitcase.
And was it with the intention of just Amsterdam is a very nice city and can connect to many other places? It was just you wanted to experience Amsterdam?
So I'm here with my boyfriend Alex. We both love the city. We are hoping to settle down here in the future, but for now, it's still, I'm jumping quite around with work, which is a good thing for sure, because the pandemic, of course, had us all grounded. So we're still trying to determine, is this where we want to live before moving here more long term? So it's always a bit up in the air, but for now we're just here, for a couple of months.
Yeah, Lucy and I were trying to figure that out in the US, where to go. Obviously here there's also benefits of some states. You don't get charged any taxes. So you just make your money, you pay it to the government. In New York, you have to pay a state tax and you have to pay a city tax. So by the end of all that, you're giving away probably about 40 to 50%, depending on your earnings. But I know in Europe, that's actually normal, right? To give like to 50% tax rate, even in the Netherlands.
Yeah, well, in Luxembourg, it's not quite as bad, but yeah, I mean, obviously for you in the States, I know you considered as well the coming to Europe at some point. Is that still on
Amsterdam?
the cards? Or
Maybe.
Not so much?
Yeah, Amsterdam was a consideration. I had like some talks with Anish even. I was asking him about different cities in the Netherlands. But yeah, I don't know if he would want to be neighbors with me. It seems like a great place, but the fact that you said there's bad internet, that's not good. That's very scary, I'm on FiOS.
Sure. I'm sure in a city as big as Amsterdam, you would be able to find somewhere with decent internet, I'm sure.
Well, You mentioned obviously you have some flexibility with careers. So what would you use to describe the career that you have? Is it just chess professional? Is it?
It's, I always struggle with that actually. It's a great question because whenever I have to fill in, your profession and there's just one line or one word, it's really hard. I would say the main part of my job is to be a freelancer and go to events. Most of the time it will be to do commentary, but it can be to do interviews exclusively or to do some social media or a mix, which is also what I love about what I do. It's always a little bit something different, but yeah, always relating to chess. So chess professional probably is as good as it gets.
Yeah, because I became, I think, familiar with your work through your two major commentary roles, right? So you it was something, was it Gibraltar?
It
Were
was
you?
probably Gibraltar. Yeah, I was commentating with David Howell a couple of years ago.
And then it was Jovanka and Simon, right? But you took over like completely for Tata Steel. You became the.
Yeah, so Tata Steel is probably one of my favorite tournaments. I love that event, and I became a commentator there, I think only a couple of years ago, but it always feels so much longer because it's such a long event and so much happens there. But yeah, I've been a commentator, I think, this year and then the two previous years, alongside Sopikor as well. So Sopikor and I were sort of the on-site people. That it has changed a lot with the pandemic as well. 2 years ago, I was on site with Robert Hess, and the last couple of years, it's a little bit sad when you sit all alone on site and your co-commentators across the pond in the US. But hopefully next year, we'll be back to some kind of normality.
Yeah, I remember because you had a co-host in. Oh wait, did you have a co-host in 2020? No, right? Or
So in 2020, that was actually the year that
or
I did the first half
yeah,
of Tata with Robert Hess, and then I went to Gibraltar and commentated
yeah.
there with David and Sopico, and someone took over us. And then last year, 2021 was the first time in Vike that they did the remote commentators.
Right. I think that must have been the one that I saw. Is it ever? How do these commentary roles work? Because I'll tell you, right before pandemic happened, literally like January 2020, I have a DM on Instagram that I sent to Anna Rudolph, who I did not know. I never interacted with her, which sounds crazy to think about now. And I said, "Hey Anna, I'm interested in a role of commentary somewhere in Reykjavik. I know you've done it there, or Gibraltar or something." And it's just such an amazing time capsule just to see where the world has gone from January 2020. So is it a similar process to get these jobs? Because if there's like 4 tournaments that you commentate on normally, but sometimes there's other people they slot in, it just seems like so difficult to get an opportunity.
It's very difficult. I think it's such a niche world, and it's a world that's probably not for you, but for others in general. Well, definitely not for you, but it's not so easy to break into. So for me, a lot of the jobs, for example, you mentioned Reykjavik. Reykjavik was my very first commentary job back in 2014, a long time ago, and that came up super randomly. What was happening at the time, I was playing a lot of chess. I was also at uni, and I played so much that I got fed up, and I had Reykjavik lined up. So I messaged them and I said, rather than playing, do you need someone maybe to help you out with writing articles or taking some pictures, posting on social media? I didn't ask about commentary. I mean, I never wanted, I'd never done commentary. I didn't dream of doing commentary. So I was asking about all these other things. And when I showed up on site, they said, well, actually, can you do some commentary as well? And I said, I can try. And it sort of started from there. I really enjoyed that. So I think in the chess world, a lot of it, okay, you do it once, you're sort of friends with the organizers and it continues, but maybe we'll miss a little bit of a system, because there's, of course, other events that I would also like to do commentary for, but there's not really an application process, I think, is sort of what you're getting at. It's not clear, how do you apply for these roles? How do you get in? So for me, I think a lot of it I've just been in that sphere for so long, and then I was maybe not one of the first, but like it was early days. This was before Twitch, which also seems kind of crazy to think, back then our show was maybe on YouTube, like on chess.com/TV was the main chess.com platform, which these days seems, did that happen 8 years ago or 100 years ago? That's how far it feels. But no, for sure, I think for a lot of events, it's just people, which maybe isn't fair, and maybe there should be a process to apply, especially I think for official maybe FIDE events. It's not always, even to me who is so in this sphere, it's not always clear what could I have done to put myself out there. So I think it's sort of a mix, some people, and then of course sometimes I will just contact tournaments and say, hey, you interested in, are you looking for a commentator? Are you looking for someone to help the team? So it's really a mix. Sometimes I will get in touch. Sometimes tournaments like Reykjavik, like Tata, once you become part of the family, that's just sort of a continuing gig. So yeah, a mix of approaches.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because when I sent Anna the DM, it really felt like a totally foreign world. I was looking for the Instagram accounts of these tournaments, and I was just messaging them, and I was just hoping that they would respond. Even to this day, though, with things like reaching out to a brand I'm really interested in, it's just the contact process is so strange. And in chess, we don't really have managers or agents. That's never been a thing. I mean, I know if you go to some players' websites now, like I saw Duda, I contacted his manager. You have a guy just managing a GM, but we never had this. We always have to find our own opportunities.
Exactly. So. And I think that in that sense, we are still a little bit behind. I feel that everything has moved so fast with Twitch, with the online boom. And there are certain areas where I feel we just haven't quite caught up yet. But it's interesting what you're saying. I mean, I'm curious, a couple of years from now, will the whole thing be a lot more professional? Still, will people have their agents? Will this whole process changed? Very likely, because if we look back 2-3 years, things were quite different. So I think things are moving fast, and hopefully chess is also moving in the right direction to become more and more professional.
Yeah, there's a difficult line to balance here. For example, on the one hand, you have Tata Steel, which seems like a really, really, really successful chess project, and I think we can owe that to the fact that it's been going on for almost 100 years.
A long time.
Yeah, I suppose that means that it's granted. When I started making recaps about Tata Steel, people in my comment section were asking me to comment on the actual company itself. Apparently, they're doing some not great things over in the Netherlands. Pollution and all this, and I was like, to be honest, I had no idea. Like, I just know the chess side. I just know it has a name, and it used to be called Chorus, right? Chorus was another steel company. Is that what it was?
Well, they are the same. Basically, Tata bought Chorus. I don't want to say anything stupid, but so it's the same, and it's the plant is basically in Beverwijk, which is right next to Vikensee. So there sometimes are some protests, and of course it's hard as a player because you're in the middle, better than most people in chess. It's not so easy to find sponsors for big events or small events. I mean, it's just hard to find sponsors, full stop. So what do you say as the tournament, or as me as a commentator, I love working this tournament. Of course, I wish pollution wasn't an issue, but yeah, it's just a difficult topic, I think. Where do you draw the line in terms of sponsorship?
Yeah. It was like sort of it's a weird thing, because on the one hand we want more we want more sponsors in the game. On the other hand, if the sponsors are gas, fertilizer, law firm, which I think are the three major sponsors right now of FIDE, and I think they're all also based in Russia. So it's on the one hand you want your favorite players to be paid more and you want more opportunities. On the other hand, you want to you want to fight the good fight for society. So it's like in life, you need to trade certain things. But in terms of just player conditions, player treatment, Tata Steel seems to have it correct. Anybody can wear their logos. They just don't care. I mean, they're just interested in no dress code, right? You can wear hoodies.
No dress code. I mean, we saw Shahriar Mamediarov this year, right, with the hoodie up over the head. No, I think in general, and I think it's also a very Dutch thing. People are quite liberal. There's a big sense of freedom. Even when it came to the pandemic, they were quite late to the party in terms of imposing certain restrictions. And I think there's just if I can say Tata Steel, it just has this tradition, which is something Magnus talked about this year in the final interviews, that it has such a rich history. Almost everyone who has a big name in the world of chess has played there, has won there. It's a charming village. It can be a little cold, a little windy, but it's right by the sea, and I think the players just enjoy it. Usually there's the amateurs, there's the chess fans, and pre-pandemic, basically the whole village revolves around chess. You cannot go anywhere without bumping into chess lovers. All the cafes, restaurants will sort of have a chessboard. So it's just a really, really nice chess atmosphere. And it feels it's strange to think the best in the world are there, but the atmosphere is quite homely, which is very nice.
That is very interesting. I've never experienced that. The closest that I got to that was when I played the Czech Open in Pardubice, and we played in the hockey arena. So there was a sports arena. Have you ever played there?
I played there. Funnily enough, Pardubice was the first, when I was young, the training tournament where Luxembourg, the delegation would always go to. So I played there like 7 or 8 times. But my last time was, I think, 2006. So it's been a while, or 2008.
Was it also in the hockey arena?
In the end, yes. Like the last time, or the last 2 times I was there, it was in the hockey arena, and before that it was in some big hall. But pre-hockey days, the prehistoric days. I think 2000 was the first time I played in Pardubice. But the hockey hall is quite impressive as well.
It is, and they have 100 DGT boards, which America can learn from. Our major tournaments here don't have any DGT sometimes, so we don't even broadcast the games, which is ridiculous. But Pardubice was interesting because there was hundreds, if not thousands, of players in the entire event just walking around. Admittedly, I didn't know anybody unless they were a GM, but I would see people on the street, like very small town. But even then, the majority of Pardubice has no clue there's a chess tournament going on. They're just living their lives. And if you ever play a chess tournament in New York City, it's like there's just millions of people. It's just the whole city is existing, and you're playing your little stupid chess tournament over here in this basement of a hotel. That's where I played my last 2 Norm events. And we play in this really crappy little room in a basement of a Manhattan hotel because it's the cheapest option. Because everywhere else is going to charge us thousands of dollars for 5 days. So
I don't know what it is. I don't know if chess is just more respected in Europe, if it's more of a cultural thing. I've never played in the US. That's not quite true. I think I played in a tiny club tournament somewhere in Arizona back in 2004. Just like a one night.
What?
I know.
Why were you there?
It was a family holiday, and my dad was the one who taught me chess. So he plays, I play, my younger brother plays, and I think we just stumbled across this small club. I couldn't even tell you. I think it was in Phoenix, and they had a small club tournament that night. So we played we played a few games there. But it was of course, that's always going to be different. The club night. I mean, they were very welcoming, but when I think of chess in the US, the first thing I think is bring your own board, which I don't know if that is still happening.
Yeah. That's We have in the US we have one major organizing body of tournaments. It's called Continental Chess Association. It's been around maybe 50, 60 years. It's run by this older, grouchy gentleman. No disrespect if the gentleman watches this podcast for whatever reason, but he is a bit grouchy. They have had long relationships with hotels. So every year, if they can, they get the same dates in the same hotel. And they just, they have their little routine, and they usually have like 6 sections. So under 1,000 up until open. And the prizes actually are not bad. For if you're 1,200, you can win like a couple grand, which is insane.
Which is so different. I mean, that never happens in Europe, right?
In Europe, right? Yeah. That's what I noticed as well. And that's the system. Like they have very small tournaments, 5-round tournaments that are just on the weekends, but they also they organize almost all 9-round events. Recently, more like chess clubs around the country have started opening up. They do norm tournaments. So right now, norm tournaments are really popular because we have a young crop of anywhere from 10 to 16 years old who are all 24, 50 and all trying to become GMs. I have to play against them. It really sucks.
It's so tough. I mean, when you have to play these days, I don't play so much, but whenever I play someone nowadays, it's not even back in the day when they were born in the year 2000 and after, you thought, oh my God, they're so young. But these days they can be born after the year 2010, which is just... Yeah.
I played a couple of 2010 born kids in the last couple tournaments, and it was not fun. It's completely different. And this open tournament in Continental Chess, they like I said, they will either have no DGTs, or what they started doing is that, and for anybody that doesn't know, DGT is the fancy chessboard that all the grandmasters, play on, magnetic relays. They would get us tablets, so we would tap on a tablet the moves, and that would broadcast. It's bring your own board. And I mean, one of my favorite stories is a round starts in Manhattan Open. A grandmaster walks into the middle of the playing hall. 5 minutes into the round, it's completely silent, and he just yells, "Does anybody have a board to borrow?" And I'm just sitting there like, this is a GM? This is insane. He doesn't have a board.
I mean, it's just a completely different world almost.
Yeah, it's but we tend to, like, as an American, I like to say, oh, something Europe, whereas every country in Europe is different. But you're saying that most of Europe cares a little bit more about chess.
Well, it's hard. Like, I wouldn't want to judge because I haven't been to the US in so long, and I'm not too familiar with what the chess scene there is like. But it just feels that chess here is culturally more deeply rooted, I would say.
Is that what kind of inspired you to choose it as a career? Because I know you mentioned you said you were in uni 8 years ago. I didn't know that. I never know which chess players went to university and who didn't. So you were take me through that journey. Like, you were a player for Luxembourg, which, how many Olympiads did you play in?
Oh my God, it's always one of the things. Can I count on my fingers?
See, like, that's cool. I would never. You know how many times I've joked about changing my country to play in an Olympic team, like to skip the process?
A lot.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, what was that process like? But you chose to go to university, and where was that? And
I wasn't really. I think, unlike a lot of your previous guests, I wasn't super strong. I think I was relatively okay for for small country chess players. So as you
Sure.
mentioned, was born and grew up in Luxembourg, which only has about 500,000 population. So really quite a small country. And then, yeah, I started playing chess when I was around 8 or 9. And very quickly, I got onto the national team because there were just not so many girls. And I think I had a decent level when I started playing in tournaments because I had played quite a lot at home with my dad. And I think he had done a great job teaching me the basics. So when I started playing at home with my dad, we didn't start with all the pieces. Like he would first sort of show me how to checkmate with a queen and how to checkmate with 2 rooks, and then slowly bring all the pieces. So I think if you're a child and you sort of go to your first events and you know how to checkmate with a queen, you already have a big
Or mate,
advantage.
scholars mate. You know how to do scholars mate, right? And so...
Exactly. Yeah, and then it all happened very fast. I played my first World Junior Championship for Luxembourg, or World Youth, within months of playing my first tournament, and then my first Olympiad. But still, I mean, I was only, by the time I finished secondary school, so when I was 18, 19, I was around 21, 2200, which was fine as a Luxembourg chess player, but never enough to become a professional chess player.
Right.
And I think even if I had been 23, 2400, it's just so difficult to be a chess professional. And regardless of the gender, I think it's just so hard to make a living from purely playing chess. So I knew that wasn't an option. So I went to university. I studied events management and ended up never organizing an event in my life.
That's fair. I mean, I got a degree in statistics and quantitative modeling. I can't say I model anything statistically. I, just for fun, I pulled up the Luxembourg FIDE list.
Mm-hmm.
And so even now you are the 16th highest rated player in Luxembourg. But the craziest thing is, in the top 50,
Mm-hmm.
you are like still the second youngest player. I mean, there's just like no, I guess, is there no good youth programs? There's no...
It's a little bit sad, yeah. I'm quite out of the loop, I have to say, because I haven't lived in Luxembourg full time for a long time. Also, I'm not too aware of what's happening in the chess world, but it's sad to see, because when I was young, there was so many events. We had a great coach. And then I don't know what happened. I think shortly after I turned 20, somehow at some point in the year 2010, like starting from about that point, like just nobody
Wow.
nobody came up. I don't know what happened with the events. I don't know. There are still events for sure, but I don't understand how nobody could come up in all these. It's kind of crazy, actually. It's kind of sad.
Would it be a good career or business decision for you to go open up a Luxembourg Chess Academy? The Nationwide Chess Academy? No pressure. You are responsible for all future development of chess in Luxembourg.
I think one of the reasons, actually, that we don't have, for example, if you've pulled up the list, you will see we have no grandmaster. We used to have a grandmaster, Alberto David. He was actually born in Luxembourg, but he had, I think, Italian parents, so he at some point switched to the Italian Federation. So we have no grandmaster, and to be honest, I think it's going to be a long time before we get one. And I think the reason that is, and it doesn't explain why there is not at least some younger players who are 2200 plus. But to become a chess professional, I think Luxembourg, it's a very small country, but it's a very rich country. And in Luxembourg, if you just go for a normal career path, it will pay very well. So I think the incentive to go into chess is just non-existent, basically.
That makes sense. But would you say that playing in the youth tournaments and playing in the chess Olympiad and everything, has it built kind of the adult version of like social circles and career opportunities way more than you know, a traditional career path like back home? I mean, basically, what percent, you know, of the folks you interact with day to day are from chess world or from back? That's probably almost all chess
A
world,
lot.
right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
No, for sure. I think those early days were really the foundation for what I do even now, because it developed really, it ignited a passion in me for chess. And I think part of it is the passion for the chess game itself, but partly it's also the passion for the travel that it's allowed me to do, and especially the people it's allowed me to meet. So first, when I started playing out in Luxembourg, these people who I met became my best friends, and they're still my best friends to this day. So this is, you know, we're talking really formative childhood years. Like I was 9, 10, and I spent sort of from when I was 10 to when I was 20, you know, you play all these junior and youth events, and these people grow so close to you. They're like almost family. So that really, I think, shaped me a lot. And I loved going to events. I loved meeting friends. I'm a quite sociable person by nature. So I think I just was very fortunate that when this first Reykjavik opportunity came along in 2014, that I was able to build from there, and that I'm able to be in this world that I love, the chess world, and be able to make a living from it. For me is sort of, if I was young and you told me, oh, you will be able to make a living in the chess world, I would have struggled to believe it, but I would have been delighted, of course.
well, definitely outside of playing, right? Because you get the show money, which is an interesting concept. And it's a very big thing in sports. In chess, it's not always a big thing. Like, for example, I think in Tara Steel, there's no public prizes, right? It's just sort of, I don't think the public is quite aware that folks are not competing for a prize. They get paid what they get paid, which is interesting. It's definitely interesting. Actually, do you know how you, like, if let's say I'm a super GM in a hypothetical world where I'm also not the same person, and I want to play in Tara Steel and they offer me some money up front, or any tournament, how does one evaluate what they're worth outside of being the world champion? Is it the amount of attention you're going to bring? Is it sponsors? Like, what?
It's so hard. And I think it's also, I guess in a way, probably different again in Europe, because I feel that talking about money is more taboo, I think. And maybe I'm stereotyping too much, but I feel that in America, first of all, sports and money has more of a, I think, you know, these big sports event and all these sporting stars. While in Europe, I think it's all very hush sort of, you know, who gets paid how much. I think a lot of the events are, of course, most events are different to Tata, that there is actually prize money, and then the appearance fee will be lower, but I am not privy to any details. And to be honest, sometimes I think as a player, and I have the same thing sometimes as a content creator, you know, you get approached by a company and they're like, oh, we would love to have you for this campaign, and how much do you charge? And sometimes I'm like, I wish I could just ask someone else who has more experience in this than me, because I think it's always, for me personally, an uncomfortable question, like, oh, how much? Because I don't have any clear, and it's probably something I should work on. But I'm sure a lot of professional chess players are in the same situation, where either they get asked, okay, how much do you want? Or they get offered something and they have to determine, is this what I'm worth? Do I think I'm worth more? I think it's just a very tricky topic, and especially more tricky because in the chess world, I think so often, if you want to to ask for more, very often the answer will just be no. So
Yeah.
it's a very tricky line to work.
Well, I think this is good advice for the general viewing audience, both in and not in the chess world, right? I mean, you have a job interview, they finally ask you your salary expectations. There's all these tutorials on how to tell the interviewer that, you know, that's something you want to discuss at a later point. You're just interested in the job. I think somebody once said, I've heard that if you're in an interview and you're not like completely crazy about the position, you should just offer them fuck you money. And maybe they'll accept. You never know. And if they say no, well, whatever. You didn't really want it anyway, you know. But maybe they negotiate you down to a price that's still higher than what you get. Is it standard in Europe to not know like the salary up front when applying for, like, let's say a data scientist job or something? Is it?
I mean, to be honest, you're asking the wrong
No,
person.
I know, but maybe you have like friends who are doing it or something, or.
No, I would think that very, very often the price is like the salary is published upfront. Is my feeling.
We only made that a requirement recently.
That which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's only New York. It's not federal. New York State made it a requirement to publish. And it's interesting because I think what companies are going to end up doing is they're going to raise their minimum salary. So basically, it's always a range, right? Based on, first of all, based on what the candidate even asked for, but also their experience. So anyway, it's two individuals. When's the last time you applied for a real job? A real job?
Never, in my case.
Really? Never?
I don't think so, no. I think the only job, I did a student job back in the day, which was, I think some art gallery, and I just had to open the door and let people in. It was a tiny gallery. I didn't have to do anything. Some days I was just on my own.
Wow. Did you get commission if you sold something?
No.
Oh my God.
No.
What kind of gallery was this?
It was just a tiny local Luxembourg gallery.
You were helping drug dealers launder money through this art gallery or something.
I don't even know. I mean, I can't even remember if the paintings were even for sale or if it was just like an exhibition. Wow. But yeah, so I did that. I did a little bit of babysitting also in my uni days, and that's about it, because even so, I started in the chess world 2014. My first job was before I graduated from uni in 2015. And then I was lucky that a few jobs, chess jobs came along, and I was very lucky basically never to have to apply to a proper job. I
did about maybe 2 years of soul searching when I was in college, because I was teaching chess, and I was thinking of one of the more corporate jobs. But it's kind of the case when you're in New York City, because you're so close to so many different, accounting, finance, all these traditional kind of 9-to-5 jobs.
I was going to ask you, could you see yourself doing a 9-to-5?
Well, if you asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, yeah, but no, now I think I'd probably rather jump out of this window I'm looking out right now. No, I definitely can't. I really value. I think I value what, I mean, I'm sure you experience the same. If you want to go take a walk right now, well, it's like 5 p.m., so that's actually a bad example. But
what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with a 5 p.m. walk.
No, but I meant like in my hypothetical example, it's already past the workday. But I'm saying if it's 10 o'clock, you can move to Amsterdam for a couple months to scope it out. And COVID has made things a bit easier because people actually realize that their employees are productive remotely. So, listen, I know people who moved states and started buying a house there and are still telling their company they're still in the other state. So
that's insane. Yeah, I think that's one of the effects that really it has shown us that life can function in a lot different ways than what we're used to. And yeah,
one question I was very curious about was when you got started on this commentary journey, and even now, have you ever been a bit intimidated or worried about looking bad when you do commentary because maybe your co-host is some 2700, or you have to interact with super GMs. That's always been a concern in my mind. Yeah, and I'm curious, like, were you ever intimidated? Were you ever, hesitant to ask?
I think for sure. I think it's all about, and it's a lot of game of trial and error, sort of figuring out over the course of different events and over the course of years, sort of what works and what not. And of course, there's the element that you'll always work with a new co-commentator. So I think you also have to adapt to that. But for sure, I think especially in my early days, it was like, oh, what if I asked them something, which might be a bad move. But I think, yeah, with the years, I sort of learned. And I think these days, it's also changed. Chess commentary has also changed a lot. So I think we also had to adapt, because back in the day when chess was much more niche, I think the people watching were on average stronger chess players, because there wasn't this whole new crew. And then I feel the commentary had to be different. I think when I compare my early gigs to now, back in the day, it was really, the focus was fully on chess and making it education. And I think these days, of course, you still want to produce an educational show. And I think, there's better, I'm sure you're one of the people who has given this the most thought of how do you combine the elements of entertainment and education, because I really think that chess these days needs both. If you produce a show which is only educational, it's not going to work. And if it's pure entertainment, that's not going to work either. So I think, and I've sort of swayed away from your original question, but
it's a podcast. We can
So what I'm saying is, these days, these questions that I think back in the day when I was starting out, I might have thought, oh, I don't want to ask a silly question or a basic chess question. I don't want to get it wrong. These days, I feel that should be my role, because almost always I'm more the presenter and my co-commentator will sort of be the chess expert. And I think one of my roles is to be the voice a little bit of the people who are watching us. Because I think one of the things in chess for strong players, sometimes it's a bit hard to put themselves in the place of the average viewer and to go through these lines. And I always think it's funny, some chess viewers, they watch these two super GMs commentating together, going through some line they understand nothing about, but they're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I know.
Although they don't understand. So I just feel, you have to always sort of read your co-commentator, read the room, read the show, read the tournament that you're working for. And it's also part of the fun of what I do, that every event is not just a different event, but it's a different broadcast, it's a different public, and it's always moving. So always new challenges.
I agree. I think when I was kind of getting started with this journey of commentary and whatnot, I tried to get into the mindset of the average viewer, because I think in the last several years the average rating has gone down, which doesn't mean that the people listening to this episode are bad players. It just means we had so many people in the chess world who might be watching who are 2200, 2000. 2000s are the meanest people in chess, by the way. I'm just going to say, Fiona, I'm glad you're like 2170, 2200, because those 2000s, man, they think they know everything, and they are so mean. They start telling you which commentary team not to watch, and I feel like even to this
day, it's also difficult. Sometimes for these people, it feels like, and of course we don't want to generalize, but I think for a lot of the audience that has been there for years, sometimes it's difficult now to adapt and to allow this new crowd in, which is newer to the game. So not always everyone is very welcoming, but I mean, I for one, I'm super happy that we have this new, really all these new people coming to chess, and I hope that with time everyone gets more welcoming and more understanding.
I hope so too. For what it's worth, I'm a tragically low rated I am at this point, but at my peak, I was 2430, so I'm gonna say that. And I had plenty of fun watching, like, for example, when you were working with Naroditsky recently on Tata Steel, I just had it up when I was watching the games and also just when I was not watching the games, and I thought it was, I was not having a bad experience watching it. I mean, I still was getting feedback through the games, and okay, I mean, I am.
That's
So
the secret, I think, to a successful broadcast, is if everyone can walk away with something. Like,
yeah,
of course, you're really at the the higher end of people who might be watching, but I think that's the challenge. How do we create a show? Because in chess, I think it would be fantastic if we had, 2 or 3 different broadcasts per event that are adapted
yeah.
to different audiences, but I just don't think we are there yet. I don't think there's the budget. I don't think there's even the viewer numbers, although they have exploded as well. So as long as we cannot do different broadcasts, it's important to I think offer something for everyone who's watching.
Well, from just the chess.com perspective, probably, yeah. But there's just so many commentary teams all over the place. For example, like Grand Prix is currently going on, so I've checked in on. But I was surprised it wasn't Svidler and Jan, and they're now probably the highest rated commentary team, average rating between the two.
I think they are a great example of what you were saying, of what I was saying with these sometimes 2 super GMs. I loved watching, and I still do whenever I get the chance, watching Jan and Peter. But it's like I'm close to 2200, and sometimes I'm like, what? Let me pause that, rewind that. What would they say?
Yeah. I mean, when they're not making jokes about whatever,
Yeah,
one of them just kind of says something along the lines of, this structurally speaking, this like is not very good, and a good example of this is this game. And I'm like, guys, what? I mean, how is anyone understanding this? I don't even understand it. But it's true. On the other hand, people who are 1900 might get tired of some jokes about, interview questions. Right now, have you noticed for the Grand Prix, they have a serious interview and then they have like a joking interview.
I have noticed.
And yeah, you have Daniil. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just cracking up. Like yesterday, Daniil was giving some interview, and it's very serious. And then he goes and speaks with Dina, and how many chin-ups can you do? And he's just like, what? And then what's your most favorite quality in a woman? It's like amazing watching them get so flustered,
I know. I think it's completely new, and I mean, some of the interviews, some of those I enjoy. Sometimes I will admit I cringe a little.
Yeah, me too.
At others, but I think with interviews, it's like with the commentary. It's an evolving art, and I mean, if you go back, I was gonna say 5 years, but even if you go back a couple of years in time, you could never imagine that one of the strongest events in the world, the players are suddenly asked, so what emote would you use to describe today's game? All these, fun questions. So it's certainly an interesting evolution that the chess world has, an interesting path we have embarked on.
Yeah, the emote question is quite funny. I haven't had a chance to watch all of them. I still tune in for Grishuk's quips. That guy. The best delivery, hands down.
For sure.
You've interviewed Grishuk, right?
I've interviewed Grishuk. I mean, he is always. You never know what's gonna happen. He is a very great interviewee, and just always. There's never a dull answer. Basically, even if he thinks it's dull, the delivery and the whole persona always make everything kind of funny and interesting what he says.
Yeah, I enjoy going back through some of his candidates interviews, the Thug Life compilation. Which of the have any of the super GMs who you interviewed, like, did you ever accidentally hit a nerve, or are you very good at avoiding? It's usually after a
I
loss,
think
right?
we all hit nerves. Sometimes there's this one interview I sometimes go back to and I cringe when I watch it. I was interviewing Magnus Carlsen, which I think Magnus is one of the trickiest players to interview because you never know what mood he's going to be in. If Magnus is in a good mood, the interview is going to go great. If he's not in such a great mood, you don't know what to expect. And so there was this one time, I think it was at the Kränke Classic 2018. He had beaten Arkady Naiditsch, and I started the interview. I said something like, it was quite Maurice Ashley-esque in a way. My first question was something like, "Oh, Magnus, nice game today." And he said, "Well, thanks. I'm glad you think so, but I don't think it was a good game at all." So that was already the start. And then every follow-up question I asked him, he responded with one word and one word only.
Wow.
And I was looking at him. I also know Magnus reasonably well, and I could sort of see the smirk on his face. And I was like, is he actually trolling me? What's going on here? And I was like, okay, eventually, like at the fourth or fifth question, I got a proper answer, and the interview wasn't so bad in the end. But these just two or three answers in a row of like, yes, no, maybe, that was not a fun, that was not a fun situation. But I don't think it was personal, because after that he went to the live show, which was with Jan Gustafsson and Peter Svidler, I believe. And they said more or less the same. I had said, nice game. He was like, no. So of course there's these situations where you just don't know what sort of mood the player will be in. But all in all, I love being an interviewer, and you get to witness. I know that you showed it in one of your videos last year when Jesse Penko beat Magnus in Vaikanze, and to be able, I still get almost emotional when I think back at that interview. I think maybe the most emotional interview I've ever done, because the joy, and the adrenaline and the emotions he felt right after that win, it's something that's really special to witness firsthand. And then you ask the guy, so how are you going to celebrate? And he tells you he's going to go to the supermarket. And it's just, so yeah, there's these special moments which you get to experience firsthand is special.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite responses. I don't think maybe he didn't fully understand the question. Maybe it was more like, what are you going to do on the rest day? As opposed to celebrate. But yeah, that was, if anybody doesn't know, Andrei Yesipenko beat Magnus Carlsen in 2021 and then promptly stated that he was going to go to the supermarket to celebrate. Yeah, I remember. And he seems like a very like sweet, like nice guy, always laughing. Interview yesterday when Grisha made him laugh, he has like the biggest smile. He smiles with like his whole mouth. It's a very powerful smile.
For sure. I'm a big Jesse Penko fan. And I think in general, we're quite spoiled that with the new generation of players coming up, we've got some different personalities, some interesting personalities. But what I can say, my experience of dealing with them firsthand, all of them really super, super nice guys at the top. And I think we're quite fortunate that we don't have too many players at the top that are sort of too full of themselves, shall we say. So I think, yeah, in general, we're quite lucky with our champs.
Yeah, I've always made this joke that the ELO curve has certain dips of normal behavior and like normal attitudes. And as you get closer to 2700, it seems like everyone is a really like nice person. It seems like, okay, maybe some of them are different with their EQ than others, but they're all like interested in things outside of chess, and they all speak multiple languages, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people would be surprised if you got the look behind the scenes, very often it's okay. Pre-pandemic, once again, things were different. People were able to hang out more at events. These days, it's a little more difficult. But a lot of these players will hang out together in the evening. Games will be played. Drinks will be had. Discussions will be had. So it's all, I think, a lot more normal than a lot of people might realize.
Yeah. I feel like some of these interviews that I watch, I'm almost shocked that you can be that good at chess. Well, the example I constantly bring up is Anish Giri. Is Anish the best person to interview?
I think so, yeah. Especially as he always gives long, interesting answers, something you can bounce back on. I think he's the easiest player to interview and one of the best for sure, yeah.
And then probably the most fun person to interview is Ivanchuk. I've seen some of his long spiels, the legendary interview. So take me through the game. You know the clip I'm talking about. Oh my God, it's...
I know. I actually recently had Ivanchuk join me on stream, and that was such a special experience. I guess you know that Ivanchuk has started streaming himself.
Yeah, it's so... I tune in sometimes. It's so fascinating. It's like a little professor class, and he's just analyzing so deeply, and it's beyond me. I don't even understand it, and I'm just sitting there like, this is cool.
I know. I mean, that is something as well. If you had told me a few years ago Ivanchuk will be streaming on Twitch, I would be like, no, I don't believe it. And it was funny when he was on my stream, I asked him, so how come? Why did you start streaming? He was like, oh, my wife told me to.
He's married? I had what?
Yeah.
Since when? Oh my God. I thought he was just like I don't know how old he is, maybe late 40s, 50s. I thought he was just the guy who played chess. Wow.
Yeah, so even for Ivanchuk, who I think he's really such a standout. I was very fortunate that I met him at my first Olympiad 20 years ago, and we're not super close, but I've known him a little bit for all these years, and he is just, I think, the most special character in the chess world. His passion of chess just knows no bounds. I have one funny Ivanchuk story. So one day I was playing English League, and he was also there. And this was a 3-game weekend. Mm-hmm. But Ivanchuk came to only play the last game, so which was played on the Sunday. And so this was the Saturday. I wasn't playing, and I was walking around. No, I was sitting in the hotel bar with my laptop. And Ivanchuk comes and he sees me, and he sits down and he says, Fiona, do you know where I can find the games which were played yesterday here in the English League? So since I was on my laptop, I said, well, I can just pull them up. So I found them online. I downloaded the database, opened it in ChessBase. And there's a lot of games. English League has a lot of teams, and there's some very strong 2,700 plus GMs, but then it goes down all the way to like 1300s. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I gave Ivanchuk my laptop, and I thought he would just click through the top games, and see. So he would always click through the opening moves and then go to the next game, and so on and so on. He clicked through every single game that had been played the previous day, like all the way down to like the amateur games. And it was almost like it was no different. I think for him, it's just to get this inspiration and to see what these different people come up with. And he really looked with the same attention at every single opening.
That's incredible.
That had been played, yeah.
Yeah, he was looking at games where the combined rating of the two players is lower than his.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, that's always interesting to me. I cannot say I do that. I mean, I do for my own personal entertainment when I do my Guess the Elo stuff, but I look through, 2,400, 2,300, 2,400 plus. I always get a laugh when I see there's games in the database and some variation, and it's played between two 1600s in like a Spanish open tournament, And I'm like, how did they get here? Like, how did
I
that?
know, it's really incredible. But that's once again also chess has changed so much. Like these days, um, really some players are so well prepared. It doesn't matter what their rating is, like with information becoming so readily available, it almost feels like a different game sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just with a guy like Ivanchuk. When I watch his stream and he's going through all these, he will analyze a game that happened in some tournament, and then his knowledge is on its own completely terrifying. Just how much he knows, and then how much he knows move by move, like how every game became a different other game, and his analysis, like he it's not even that he's doing it live, he just knows it all. He just knows that in some positions you must play this way and not like this. I'm sitting there like,
he is a walking encyclopedia of chess. I mean, and I encourage everyone who's made it this far into the podcast.
I know.
Go and check him out. Give him a follow. I think it's Ivanchuk Chess. It's different from anything you'll see on Chess Twitch, but it's well worth checking out.
Yeah, I absolutely fascinating. I enjoy it quite a bit. Also, if you'd like to entertain yourself, go look at the people who watch his stream without writing in the chat. You'd be shocked. There's so many GMs. Like the other day, there was Chess Queen. Like the viewers get excited when they see the people in the chat. Somebody wrote to him like, "Oh, did you know that Alexandra Kostyuk?" And I don't know if they just wrote Alexandra. I don't know if he thought it was Botez. I don't know if he thought it was Kostyuk. He was just like, and he answers back and forth in Russian. It's amazing. It's like Ivanchuk in this tiny little box in the top left, and then Chessbase.
Yeah, and it's like, funnily enough, I was just gonna shoot him a message today or the other day, because I tried to raid him just a couple of days ago. And for the first time in my life, I got the error message that the streamer has disabled incoming raids. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. Like,
Yeah.
did Vasil somehow stumble across that setting? Like, I can't picture him being like, no, I don't want. I mean, I'd be shocked if he even knew what raids are. So yeah. Still there's a lot to learn on Twitch, but I'll have to make sure he knows that's enabled, because it's a pity. I think there's so many people who would love to send viewers his way.
You should also probably warn him, because he's going to be sitting there analyzing a game and go, why do I have all these people in my chat, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, with a guy like that, I feel almost like we are insulting him if we try to educate him on Twitch emotes. Can you imagine? Asking him, because I've even watched him in interviews get flustered with just regular questions, like what are you gonna do on the res day, and he just
imagine Adventure comes back to chess and then say, so if you could use one emote to describe your game.
Okay. Oh man, he's got a very fun voice to imitate, but I never know, like myself, Naroditsky, we can kind of do the Russian-speaking grandmasters. We can try to imitate them. I never know if we're being funny or if just completely disrespectful. Like I don't know if it's just not appropriate to imitate a guy like Ivanchuk, because he's such a legend. Just leave him alone. But
I think it's okay. Like, but I think like with everything these days, you'll always find a group of people for who it's not okay, and they will be very loud about it. So no, I think it's fine. I think as long as it's clear that there is no disrespect, and with you and Danny at least, I never had any doubts.
On a more serious note, and I asked you obviously before we hit record about this subject. Obviously, I think yesterday or maybe 2 days ago there was this thing on Twitter of the crazy Latvian guy who was, I don't even want to say it out loud, to be honest. I just feel kind of gross, like saying the whole thing out loud. So if you guys don't know, just go find it. But yeah, crazy, gross Latvian man was sending packages with gross things in them to female chess players for It said a decade. That's what it said. It said for 10 years. When you saw that, what was the first thought? What was it? To me, I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't even that surprised that something like that has been happening in the chess world. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately these days it's almost like nothing is that shocking, because we've heard of so many stories, not just in the chess world, like across other sports, across real life, across all areas of just horrific things happening. But yeah, I mean, my first reaction, of course, was shock. Like how does this happen? How does it go on for so long? I was, in a way, I was almost surprised that I had never heard of this, because I think a few of the girls who did receive these packages, I know a little bit, but I can also understand that if you're the victim of this, it's so hard. How do you deal with it? And I think that's what makes this particular thing so horrific, because even if you report it, there's no way to really make it stop, at least not in the short term. And even long term, I mean, I haven't read all the details yet, but I saw one thing which said that in one of the countries it wasn't deemed a criminal offense.
yeah, so
But he did.
I think basically it's in Russian. I mean, I was reading most of the article. I think for the first few paragraphs, the main character is Bibisara from Kazakhstan, Asubayeva. So she just became like a gold and silver medalist in the women's rapid and blitz. Also Kostyuk, like they shared gold and silver, I think, in both events. And I think the article said that, and I might be mistaken, my Russian reading is like on a 6th grade level, but it's still good enough, I think, to read the article, that this lunatic was sending envelopes in the name of someone else. So this guy,
Oh my goodness,
put a sender name on the top left or wherever it goes on the envelope and had the right address. He had their home address. So it was as if it actually went from that person. So the package that went to Bibisara, who is, I mean, even I think now is a teenager. I mean, you can only imagine what this was several years ago. I think he sent it under the name Alexander Khalifman, who's like a strong, I think, Russian. I don't know. Russian GM. Like, I mean, imagine the things this could do to your reputation. First of all,
I mean, it's completely nuts. It's really completely nuts, and it's very scary as well. I didn't realize, because I haven't read the article in detail. I didn't know, did he just send it to hotels when there's tournament? But if he knows their home address, that adds a whole new layer of disgustingness and of scariness to it. I mean, I can only imagine that if you get something like that to your home, it's only, I mean, it's not just disgusting, it's scary, because you don't know what this person might do.
And if you're a female streamer, I mean, we all have PO boxes. I have not gotten anything crazy in my PO box, but that's something that you have to deal with, because you make yourself you make yourself kind of open to the world, and it's obviously the most heinous thing that I have ever seen in my life. I'm gonna admit. I mean, in the chess world, I would say, but it's on a tiny level as well, right? I think a couple weeks ago, Anna Kramling made some tweet that a tournament director asked her not to walk, not even play, near the open section because she was distracting people because she was wearing shorts. Like, come on.
And she was a child more.
Yeah, she was like 14, like 15. Okay, I mean, 14, 15, it doesn't matter. You can't say something like that to anybody. Like, what? Yeah. What? So,
yeah, I mean, the whole topic is just, whenever I get into it, it's like, this is really, it's depressing. I think I personally have been very lucky to not have any really bad experiences. I think for me, it even shaped me in a good way. I think I'm someone who always got on well with boys. Even in school, I would play football with the boys, let's say, rather than play with the girls. So for me, growing up, it was an environment where I felt at home and where I felt welcome and I felt good. And it really makes me sad that only very few are the girls had that experience, which I had. And I really feel that these days, like, I know we're still a very long way, but the fact that the topic gets at least addressed now much more, and I really feel that things are moving in the right direction. But then, of course, a story like this one breaks, and it's like, okay, we've just taken 1,000 steps back. So a little depressing, but I would like to think there's some silver lining somewhere on the horizon.
Yeah, definitely. It is a little bit tricky because on the one hand, when you see something like this, this particular act is not a sign of anything bigger, in the sense that no one is doing. I would hope this starts and ends with this individual, and that they go to jail, and that's that. And although, the article did say that I think it was the Russian authorities who were like not going to pursue it, so that's why it was published on the Latvian side. But
yeah, that's of course the hope, right? That it's going to be a once off. I'm very curious to see what the long-term effects of, for example, the Queen's Gambit are going to be, because, you know, growing up in the chess world, very often I was the only girl at the tournament or in the team or whatever, and I really feel that it is getting better. Even as a streamer now, like, I'm always delighted when I get some new viewers and it's clear they are female, because back in the day, I mean, in chess we always assume the gender of our opponents or whoever we're talking to, and it's something I'm guilty of myself. Although I am a woman in chess, if I play someone and I'm streaming, my default will be, oh, he. And it's something that I think we all have to work on, even me as a woman in the chess world, to make it more inclusive, because I think it's so deeply ingrained that it's such a male-dominated world that it takes time to just change that.
I have some chess books here. I guarantee if I scroll through them, it's going to say, oh, you know, Black wants to do this, blah, blah, blah. But if he can't, then, it's not going to say they. It's always male. I had the same. And we're in a time right now where it almost feels like every day you're learning how to be a little bit more inclusive and progressive, right? Particularly with the use of words. And you have to balance that line between actually making useful change and driving yourself nuts of what words you can and can't say. You know, I think it's just the truth. But this one, I definitely think is important. Because I completely agree. I mean, I'm playing, even when I was playing girls, like I'd be playing, you know, in Title Tuesday, I'm just like, oh, if he goes here, and someone's like, you're literally playing a woman, and I'm like, oops, it's just.
Yeah, and it's like, we don't even obviously do it on purpose. It's just, so deeply ingrained that that you think you would be playing a guy. But I really think, is that your experience as well? Do you know if there's more women watching your videos, for example, over the last year or so?
Yeah. So before Queen's Gambit, my videos were like 98%, 2%. I don't have to say which gender. I think it's self-explanatory. Now I can check live, but let's see the last like 90 days. 90 days. Male 94.9, and female is 4.4. And that doesn't even add up to 100. So that adds up to 99.5. So I guess some people don't disclose. YouTube only has male female. It doesn't have non-binary, and it doesn't have everything in between. So, but yeah, I mean, if you think about the percentage, that's at least double. So yeah.
And I think that's what we were sort of getting at. We are making progress, but it's very, very slow progress, which I think is not, of course, in an ideal world, it would just suddenly all would be equal. But I think as long as we're making progress, even if it's baby steps, I think it has to be a good thing.
Yes, but how about this statistic? Are you ready for this statistic?
I don't know.
my video called "How to Play Chess," the ultimate beginner guide. 75% male.
Wow.
25% female.
That's actually huge.
That is huge. Yeah, and it's never changed since this is last 90 days. But in the lifetime, less of a female audience. But
still, that's I mean, great grounds to make us all hopeful that there will be more girls, and more girls will always. I think it's like snowball effect or whatever. I think the more girls there are, the more girls will come, and I'd like to think we're on the right way.
Yeah, the analytics is it's always a fascinating feature, and the interesting thing is I wonder if I can go into like the age and even region of where like these people are watching, but I think Queen's Gambit actually inspired a lot more teenagers and adults, especially among women. I don't know if it's trickled down to like a school age, because
I mean the viewing wasn't necessarily super child friendly, but I think even that, the fact that there's so many teenager and younger girls and young adults, I think even that is great, because they might have children, and then they can teach their children. I just think that the more girls really they are, and I see it not just in front of the camera, but when I look, at my community, and now there is a few women and a few girls, and I think when they arrive, when they join your channel and they know there's other women there, I think it's just a more welcoming, like it's just easier to not feel so alone.
Yeah, well, what I always like to say is I get fan mail, right? And so 99% of the mail that I get from men is either thank you for my content, a random submission of a game that they just want me to tell them what to do and how to get better at chess. That's it. It's like one or two, maybe some miscellaneous. From like, women have never sent me a game, so it's just interesting. The pushiness is less. Women send me two types of messages. Number one is a thank you for just being inclusive and talking about these issues openly, and the second one is they don't watch my content, but their significant other, who is a man, does. And they want me to wish them a happy birthday, or they want me to, and so for a while I had to stop checking my inbox, because I can't get to everybody. And I'm the kind of person who, at some point, I'll feel bad if I'm ignoring too many people.
That's kind of cute and kind of uncomfortable at the same. Well, not uncomfortable, but yeah, I guess you get a lot of these. And I hope we're going towards that point, where girls maybe sending games is not ideal, but where they will be more interested in their own interest in chess, rather than getting birthday greetings for their significant others.
Yeah. No, I mean, game analysis is one thing. I've had people try to get me to diagnose why they haven't gained any rating in 3 months, and it's but it's also a lot of kids as well. But at tournaments, it's a lot of Boys and girls, I would say. And I mean, I've had some dads who have daughters, and the daughter is too shy to ask me to like sign something or take a photo. So the dad is like, go, 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 take a photo. And the daughter is like, boys are just like, I'll watch your videos. The most awkward and uncomfortable story I've ever told is like a 10-year-old kid approached me in a bathroom. No story should start like that, okay? No. I was in a bathroom in a chess tournament, and this kid was like, GothamChess. And I was like, yo, I can't talk to kids in a toilet. Like, that's not okay. So I washed my hands and I left. And I was like, I appreciate you supporting me, but don't talk to me in the bathroom.
That's too funny.
Yeah. And
but that's something else. I mean, these days, really, the whole world is changing, and I think chess has to keep up. The internet, Twitch, sometimes like that, like we talk to people, not knowing who they are, and it's funny how sometimes, I'm sure you can relate. Like sometimes, if they're regular, I will have a certain image of how old they might be or sort of what they do, and then sometimes it's just completely different. And sometimes there's these people who are like watching you, and suddenly if you find out they're like, as you say, 10 or 11 years old, and it's just it's just a strange place sometimes for us to be spending so much of our professional life in like this whole online YouTube, Twitch.
Yeah, the digital interactions, they blur the lines a little bit. Like it's I've had in Las Vegas last year, which was kind of like the first over the board tournament for many people. There was a lot of viewers there, and I ran into people. I mean, the oldest guy I ran into was like 70, 80 years old, and I ran into a lot of teenagers. And holy crap, they were annoying. Like I couldn't walk through the lobby. They were all sitting like in a group playing Bullet. They're like, hey, Levy, come play with us. I was like, no, I'm okay. They're like, oh, you suck, dude. I was like, these guys have no filter. They're the same, behind the screen as they are in person. And they're huge, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like super tall.
I guess that's the price you pay, and it's funny because there's these moments, there's kids coming to you in the bathroom or insulting you for not playing Blitz, but the fact that as a chess content creator and streamer and YouTuber, that you can get this recognition. I think sometimes it's not easy. I'm sure you can tell us, but it is not easy to balance. Like, it's nice to have all this, to have inspired all these people, and for these people to recognize you and want to interact with you, but then sometimes it's just it's a bit much or not right. It's
I think overall it's definitely a positive. I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't trade it for the world. I have very few beefs, and they're not even beefs that kind of originate on my side. There's a Norwegian teenager who wants to kill me. But he likes to pick fights with many people. So I'm in a queue of people. But
so you've got time to see how serious.
Yeah, exactly.
How serious he is.
Exactly. But I imagine, Fiona, in all the time that you've done commentary and played in Olympiads, you must have seen a couple fights, right, between GMs. I feel like there's some. How the Olympics, the actual Olympics, has the reputation for being very promiscuous. I'm sure that there's all sorts of stories in the Olympics you obviously can't get into, but is it true?
No, I think, of course. I mean, as we were saying earlier, chess people at the end of the day are normal people. I actually can't tell if I've witnessed a fight first hand. I probably have. But no, there was the one I missed narrowly at the 2006 Olympiad, which I think is the most well-documented fight ever between two players, between Danny Gormley from England and Levon Aronian.
Right.
So I was there at the time, but I missed the action. And then, well, last year, of course, with the drama we had in the chess world, a few videos emerged there.
You were not there for that, creators. I guess. Yeah, yeah.
No.
I was actually, so recently I was in St. Louis for a
Mhm.
tournament, and the last day I was just driving around with Eric Rosen. We went to Kingside Diner, which is right by the St. Louis Chess Club. And we were walking down the street, and he points to a plot of grass, and he goes, "This is the famous plot of grass where this occurred." And I was just cracking up. I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
wow. I didn't realize actually. It's you'd be shocked. All the chess houses in St. Louis, I thought it was like a quiet cul-de-sac. They're on a very main road.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a 2-lane road, and there's parked cars everywhere, and like it's just a lot of people. So it's kind of crazy. The chess houses in St. Louis, which I always thought just housed grandmasters and quiet quarters, they almost feel like frat houses because they're all right next to each other. It really feels like college in
I
a
had
way.
no idea. I have to say, St. Louis is one of the spots when it comes to chess, at least, that I haven't never been to, and that I feel I really should visit it, because in my head it's like this almost imaginary place. Like, you've seen so many events be held there, you've seen the inside footage, of course,
Yeah.
of the cameras, but I can't, like, I think I should go there to
It's
get a clear idea. But what they've done is just phenomenal.
you'll be done with the tour in like 15 minutes, so I don't know if it's worth like a huge flight, but yeah, St. Louis is fine. But I was like really enjoying myself when Eric was taking me on a local tour.
On the
Uh,
grass patch too.
yeah. He pointed. I was like, wow, we should. I told him we should reenact, but we decided to go along with our day, and we decided not to.
That would have been a viral video right there, Levy. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, we can set it all up. I know, but well, Eric and I are really terrible at coordinating content. We recorded some live games against each other probably about 5 months ago at this point, and we never published the videos. So we're just it's just you're so bad. I've become horrible at like getting things done sometimes. I need.
Well, I also am sure you have so much content, and I have to say, sometimes I just don't know how you do it. I saw that tweet you tweeted a couple of days ago of how
Oh
many
yeah.
videos in a year. What was it? 440, something absurd. And I was like,
Yeah.
how?
I was actually shocked it was that high, and the only reason I counted how many, I'm not like a narcissist, I'm not sitting here like, I need to tweet about my productivity. I wanted to tweet because I needed to record how many days I worked for the government, like for taxes. So, because I'm self-employed. So when you're self-employed, you have to record how many days you worked. And I'm thinking like, I made 445 fucking videos last year. I couldn't believe it. I counted it 5 times. Like, it just didn't make sense. And also we made the second channel.
Yeah.
The clips I don't make myself, but the process of uploading and it's all there. So, yeah, I have no idea, but I'm kind of addicted. It goes into everything. Like sometimes Lucy and I will not leave for shopping until 2 o'clock because I need to make a recap of Tata Steel. I need to make a recap of the Grand Prix, so we wait.
But I mean, it's so important, I think, as well, to have content creators like yourself, like Agat Marta. I mean, you guys are the biggest, but to have people who are so dedicated and so passionate and who bring all these new people. And I think these days we're so lucky to have a lot of female content creators as well, which I think will be one of the steps to sort of get more girls. But sometimes to me it just blows my mind in terms of chess content creation when I compare when I was starting out on Twitch, which was as 2016, when I compare it to now, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, 2016, I imagine it's like you, a friend, and maybe 10 people watching, right? Like it's like a very different
I have a funny story actually. Back in the day, I think there were maybe around 10 or a dozen chess streamers on Twitch, and we would try to, at least with the ones I was friendly, the one who got me to Twitch was my good friend Simon Williams, the Ginger GM. And well, my now significant other Alex, he was also streaming already at the time. And our first ever interaction was him sending me a message on Twitch of like, hey, see you streaming, how long are you gonna go on for? Because that's how it worked back in the day.
Wow.
You would try to avoid, the other chess streamer, because it was such a small market. And these days, at any given time, you can find hundreds. So it's just, a completely different world.
Oh my God. You just like triggered a memory. I remember how devastated I was that Alexandra Botez was moving to New York. Not because I don't like her, but because I knew that she was going from Pacific to Eastern, which was my time zone. And Hikaru was already in my time zone. And I was like, shit, I'm losing more hours because, oh, wow, what a memory. Yeah, I remember those days. Like even 2018 was like that. 2019, 2018 was so different. We knew the times of the day where we could get maybe 50 viewers, 100 viewers. And
exactly. Yeah, really trying to work around one another. And these days, of course, unimaginable.
Yeah, I did not realize that that even in 2016 there was such a scene. I know that I'm a big fan of Simon, so I have never interacted with him, but I like got some of his courses back in the day. His courses that he recorded in a very dramatic, dark setting with a physical board, and he had the board here. I love that shit, man. That was so cool. But he was like the first to do it. He was the first in many ways.
Yes.
And I had some of his courses, and I used to actually, sometimes I think back and I'm like, I wonder if some player ever saw me kind of imitating their accent and hates me because of it. I used to go on stream when I had my first courses, and I would always say, like he used to say, DVD, because he always had he had courses that were DVDs. He used to sell DVDs. So my courses, I always used to joke that they're DVDs. And if he ever saw a clip, he probably hates me because I used to always joke about
I think Simon, I'm sure some people would hate you, but Simon is one of the most easygoing people around.
That's good, because
I don't think he would mind.
I think I said DVD probably like 10,000 times. I was just such a big fan. Like I remember he inspired me to play so many different openings. I used so many of his ideas. I think
he was really a pioneer, especially in Europe. Like I always feel like when it comes to content creation, like even Simon and I in the day we would talk, I think it's just very different. These days there are more Americans watching European streamers and vice versa, but I think back then it was a lot like American viewers would support more American content creators, and we would mostly be watched by Europeans. But yeah, I think Simon really has been a trailblazer, and he has so many crazy ideas. Sometimes it's even hard, I think, for him. The chess world contains his crazy genius a little too much.
Yeah, there's probably only one example that I can think of, well, no, maybe two, because Brazilians will support a Brazilian creator like through and through, Krikor, for example, but the French are going to support the French folks, so they're going to support Blitzstream. I don't know any other French streamers. Well, there's Sardoche, who played in PogChamps.
There's also he's the smallest streamer, Dico Maniac, who's been streaming, I think, every day for like 550 days or something. So every day he has
What's his name?
Dico Maniac, DICO, and then Maniac, but with QUE. He's quite low rated. Let me pull up his Twitch.
I'm gonna find him one day. Is he? But he's streaming in French.
He's streaming in French, yeah. But it's just very, very impressive. Let me pull up his stream. So today was day number 574 in a row.
Yeah, God bless him. I don't know if I've streamed 574 minutes in 2021. No, that probably happened, but. Yeah, that's incredible.
But you're making a good point that even in Twitch, it's strange to see this, at least for certain countries or certain creators, really see this patriotism in full swing.
Well, I have I am willing to bet probably the lowest percentage of my audience is from France. And it all dates back to an infamous day that I did a sub battle with Blitzstream. And I don't know much about Blitzstream, to be honest with you, but you cannot type my name in his Twitch chat.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
you
it
get,
that
you,
bad?
I apparently, man, like I said, I've never spoken to the guy, but, well, outside of planning that sub battle. So one day we will know the truth, but I've even corresponded with some people on Instagram. They were back when I accepted DMs. Some very angry French folks were DMing me, like, you bastard, you this, you that. I was like, what is going on? So
But he is, I mean, I don't know him personally very well. What he's done with his channel is huge. I didn't think we would see someone who does content that is in English rallies so many people behind him, but he's certainly a man of strong opinions. I mean, I do speak French, so I sometimes tune into his stream, and he's not afraid. He's not holding back. If he has an opinion on something or someone.
Yeah, it actually kind of helps in some ways. It helps that you can speak French because it and not English. When you share an opinion in English, it almost feels like the English speaking media can always run away with it and do some crazy thing. It's very different, I feel like, in French. So in some aspects, it's but then again, I have some peacemakers. I have peacemakers in the chat. I speak French and I like both of you, and I'm like, okay, thank you. But yeah, sadly, I don't know if I will ever get along too well.
There will never be another sub battle.
I hope, but you know, we'll see. What I always sign off with folks on, and this is going to be a very tough question for you, Fiona, but if not chess, what do you see yourself doing? And I guess what does the future hold, or if it's just chess?
Yeah, well, I think for me, sorry, I think chess is the biggest part. I think my biggest interest outside, I love traveling. I love discovering new places. So I think I'm lucky that I can combine that with chess. Maybe one of the things you might see me maybe at some day less on big events. I would love to, travel to less developed countries as well, and maybe start something with chess there. I remember when I was younger, I even had some ideas of going and volunteer, just try and raise money, get a few chess sets. And well, I know it's something you have done as well with the grants and the scholarships and all that. But I think always in the chess world, it's just the world that I feel at home in, that I have friends in. So I don't see myself leaving anytime soon, but I would love to do maybe more projects, try and bring chess to even more people. Also, I understand that I'm a female, a woman content creator, commentator, so you always feel a little bit that you want to inspire, of course, more girls to join. And well, one final word, I know you're also involved with them, but for example, what Tunde is doing right now and his team with Chess in Slums is just a project that I follow quite closely, and I'm just really impressed with what he has done, what his plans are. So something like that is something I would love to get involved in, to just bring chess to more people that don't have the same chance, to have a computer, open Twitch. They have close to nothing. So that's something that I would be quite interested in. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So nothing outside of chess.
It's so hard, like I'm now I'm 33. I've never done anything other than chess. I think like everyone, sometimes I get, I don't want to say burnout, but sometimes you just get exhausted. But then it's what you said, we have that freedom of being able to do our job from everywhere. And for example, a couple of months ago, I just went off to Thailand for 6 weeks, and I could still do my World Championship commentary from there. I could do other work from there. So I think this gives us the freedom. Yeah, if I someday I'm like, I'm tired of this, I can just go off. I can even take a few months off to recalibrate, but I, at the moment, don't see myself leaving the chess world for good.
And when you went to Thailand, did you run into Team Magnus?
They were, funnily enough, they were not so far away. On the very last day of the match, when they published the picture, Laurent Fressinet sent me a message, and I was like, are you guys in Thailand? Because the picture, I thought there was a good chance, and turns out they were just on the next island. So didn't run into them, but that would have been, I was thinking that, imagine one day, you know, you go to the beach or you go to a restaurant,
yeah,
and suddenly you bump into like Dubov, Jordan.
That's what Jordan told me. He told me that one day he and Dubov were walking, and someone on the street, some German tourist, was like, "What the hell, guys?" And I wonder what they told him. I wonder if they told him. I don't think Jordan told me that what they said to him, but that was just funny. Yeah.
But once again, it's just fantastic to see that these days chess players get recognized. I really feel that chess as a whole, and I know it has its negative aspects and it's not always perfect, but as a whole, I really feel that it's a good world with good people in it, and that we are moving in an even more inclusive and into a direction where even more people will watch and play chess.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I will say that I also do not find myself breaking from chess for a while. I definitely don't know how it will be 5 to 7 years from now if I'm going to still wake up every day with the purpose of making a YouTube video. But I found myself in a position where I went from like surfing on the wave of chess growth to now I also find like it's kind of also up to me to push some new chess project or like a chess podcast or whatever, you know, chess
you
product.
have certain responsibilities, right? Like in a way, I imagine you feel like I cannot just disappear all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, like you mentioned, the Chess and Slums thing is amazing. They won one of the grants that I made last year. I donated to their cause. But yeah, like I'm gonna try to set up a foundation and mostly focus on chess and chess programs in schools. And I actually frequently feel like there's not enough hours in the day. And I don't have enough hands and brains. That's very true. We'll see. We can have some follow-up episode in the future where we decide if we're satisfied with.
I mean, imagine, like sometimes I think about that. Imagine we do a follow-up episode in 2-3 years. We'll look back at today and probably think, "Oh my God, everything was so different back then."
I know. Even. Well, no, probably in the chess world it will take like a couple of years, but it's true. It's true. We have to get more inclusive, and we also have to leverage all the new audience, so it's not just the digital creators who are benefiting the most, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if prize money is not changing at the top, it means we're kind of growing, but not everyone is benefiting from it.
In terms of financial and also exposure, there's still such a long road ahead. Of course, it would be great to have chess on TV someday, like they do it in Norway. It works out, so there is no reason it shouldn't work out elsewhere, but definitely a very long road ahead. And yeah, I just want, you were saying, you know, get more inclusive, but I want to say a big shout out to most people, because I feel as a whole, I really appreciate the chess community and the people watching. And of course, with greater viewers come more haters and more isolated cases, but as a whole, really appreciate everyone, you know, who spends their time watching our stuff and being in the chess world, playing chess. So all in all, it's been great to see.
Very well said. I completely agree, and I feel like anything I say beyond this point will just diminish the quality of like the closing monologue. You know, it feels like very on a good note. It's true. For all of our complaints, it really does. I think the chess world is growing and in a good way. So I think on that note, Fiona, I really appreciate you joining and being flexible today.
Thank you so much for having me. It really was my pleasure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did commentary a couple of times, but I definitely feel like with a lot of chess players, there's always some fun stuff to discuss, and even if it's like 90 minutes, 2 hours, it's good. So
for sure.
Thank you.
It was fun. Thanks for having me, and I hope to see everyone very, very soon.
Yeah, actually, this episode is for the last few weeks. I've been publishing the episodes like this week. Sometimes I stock them up. So, well, when people hear this, you will probably be in the middle of a Grand Prix commentary. So, have fun with that. And
thank you so much, Levy.
As always, folks, if you've made it this far in the episode, I just want to thank you for all your support on my content and my podcast. You know where to find me if you'd like to support. There are donation links on Twitch and on YouTube. And also there are chess courses at GothamChess.com. Till next time, I'll see you right back here in Gotham City with our next guest.